Welcome back, everybody. It feels like an eternity, but finally Persona 5X has been announced for global, coming out June 26th, so really right around the corner, a bit more than a month as of recording this. And I have been playing this game on the Korea server for quite some time now, since just a bit before Haru got announced, so at least a good 6-7 months or something like that. And I wanted to come to you with an unfiltered kind of pros and cons, good and bad list, if you will, of what I think about this game after having played it for this amount of time. Now, this will be in no particular order. I'm not ranking it or anything like that. And as I look at my list on my side here, I do actually have more pros than cons, but I want to be fair and balanced so that you know what you're going to get into when this comes to global. So as we start, I'm intentionally on the main screen here, and that's because my first pro is to say that this does feel like Persona. I think from a gacha game perspective, it's easy to quickly write this off and say, you know what? It's a gacha game. There's no way it's living up to the Persona hype. There's no way it could be, what I remember of Persona 5 or Royal or other games. But even just right now, the kind of collab screen we have here with Persona 3 Reload, you see the art style, you see the vibe. And I'll log in here. You'll see the actual game here in a moment. And you're going to see just how Persona 5 this really is. And I remember the first day I played this, that was one of the first things I was talking to Showtime Doctor about, was this game instantly feels like Persona 5 in particular. So you'll see me in here. I'm in one of the different areas you can be in. There's quite a few. Matter of fact, I can just pop in a subway and you can see all of these different places. Now, some of these are just for like mini quests, but there's so many places you can go to that are going to be very, very familiar. And I won't go into any story details or spoilers here, so I'm not going to tell you why we're where we're at or how it involves the original story. But if you've played Persona 5, you know exactly where I am right now. And I think that's key. I think if I were to rank this list, this would be my number one, is you're going to play the game and you're going to feel Persona. And I couldn't be happier. So that's my first really big pro. Next up, and it really ties into that first point, is the palaces and mementos are in here. And again, they give you that Persona 5 feeling. Now, I will say the palaces aren't necessarily exactly of the same caliber as Persona 5. They're reminiscent, but they do tweak them quite a bit for, I guess, the kind of gacha world they're building. There's a lot of rewards you can get from chests and things like that. And they're not quite as, I would say, detailed, but they still look really good. And as new ones are released, I think they have stepped up the quality more and more each and every time. Now, I've done quite a few live streams on this game, and in those, there's some that I did just, finish up palaces or finish up mementos, and I enjoy going through those areas. And if I pop over here, I can kind of show you what they have. But they've got these really big places. And so we pop in the map here. But some of these are absolutely massive. Like this is one floor of one palace. Here's another floor of another palace. And so there's a lot to do in these. And this is, again, just a little slice. Same thing with Mementos, is Mementos has multiple different areas, different floors, and they're quite big. And as you go on, they get bigger and bigger, and this is only going to grow. And so they're great places to get resources, things like that. But I also just enjoy being in them. And so coming from the Persona 5 or another Persona franchise games, they're good additions to the game. I enjoy them. I think you will as well. But speaking of that, I want to pivot this into what I would say is the first con. So in the palaces, they have added like puzzles, if you will, little mechanics that each palace has that you have to solve for. They're not enjoyable. They really aren't. They feel like they are trying to prolong certain sections of the game. I don't think they're necessary. If they were more, I would say, involved or just frankly interesting, I'd probably care more. But again, if you go to my live streams, if you've ever been to one, you probably heard me complain about having to kind of just go through them. And 9 times out of 10, the puzzle solution is like 5 feet in front of you. So you walk up, you see like an electric fence, and then 5 feet away is the button you have to press to turn off the fence. It just slows down progress for no particular reason. Now, it's a minor gripe. I would say that it's not, overly cumbersome to get around. There's only a couple puzzles that I found annoying, but it just feels like a waste. So I hope in future dungeons or future palaces, they kind of change that a bit, maybe make it more interesting, or frankly get rid of it altogether if they don't know how to. But overall, just don't enjoy that aspect. Now, switching back to the positives, and I'm going to give you a quick spoiler alert here. You're going to see my character roster. So if you don't want to see the characters in the game, maybe stop here. You could probably check timestamps for other parts, but it's hard to show the game without showing this. But I love the character diversity in this game. So if I go to my roster, you're going to see some of the people I've built up, and it does show you everybody, including who you have not pulled if I go all the way to the back down here. And there's just a lot of differences between the different playstyles of each character. For example, right here I've got Marion. She's a healer. She's probably the best healer. You've got Violet. Violet is a great single target bless damage dealer who can crit on her highlight, which we can cover in other videos. You've got great support units that can, really supercharge your highlights. Great navies. You've got Joker. Joker is an AoE curse damage dealer with added turns, things like that. We've got this individual here, Cherish, who gives you a bunch of like super beefy shields. And just if I were to go through here, I could tell you something different for each and every character on this roster, even if like they're the same element. There's very, very few that truly overlap another character. And this is great because it gives you a lot of room for team building, team diversity, things like that. And sometimes if you don't pull a certain character, you find ways around it by having other units in here that you can build cool teams around. So the character diversity is fantastic. I love the design work on pretty much all of them. There's a couple that I think are a little bit weaker, like his is okay. But ultimately, it's just a really cool cast of characters, lots of varied gameplay within each and every one of them. You can build them differently. And it's probably one of the strongest parts of the game is the different characters. I would say tying that to an unfortunate downside is if you want to get the most out of the characters, this game does have a dual banner setup. So it has the character that you have to pull, and then you have to pull the weapon separate. And these all use the same gems. Now you can get different kinds of tokens, but those aren't like spat at you like in plenty. And it is a drain if you want to pull all the characters. Matter of fact, I think it's incredibly hard to pull all the characters unless you're spending some money. But, I'll give you a recent example here. I pulled Makoto, wanted to grab him my roster, even though right now I'm kind of easing back so I can get into global. Pulled him. I'm like, you know what? I want to pull his weapon. So got him. It took me almost a pity to get this gentleman. And then I went for the weapon. And the weapon, I got all the way to the pity amount, failed the 50-50, and then don't have enough gems to take this all the way, to the pity again. And so you're going to have situations where you have to make a decision on, am I just going to pull the character? Am I going to go for the character and the 5-star weapon? Am I going to be okay with stopping at their 4-star weapon if that comes up first, or if I lose a 50-50? And just, it's gacha game mechanics. You can love them, you can hate them. But I personally hate it when a game does this, where it's characters and weapons. I prefer one or the other, and I think that's a more fair way to do it. And so it's something that going into global, you're going to need to be aware of is you're not just pulling for characters, but you are pulling for characters and weapons. And you're going to have to manage your resources, accordingly based on who you want to pull and when banners are coming out together for those sorts of things. My next positive, and this is a big one, is the events. So you'll see at the top of my screen, I've got a few icons up here. So I've got a few events, and I haven't done most of these just yet. But this game is great about its content cycles, which are typically every 2 weeks. I think they've recently made them 3 weeks long. I don't know what global is going to fall for a schedule, but I would assume one or the other. And in the events, you tend to get a lot of like side content, things like this, where you get some pulls to get, goodies and things like that. You'll get new character events that tie to things like palaces, where you get a bunch of, gems or like weapon tokens, things like that. You get new character launches, what let you test them out. And then you get, some gems and rewards for them. And then just depending on the content cycle and what they're doing, there's all sorts of other kinds of events. And so when these come out, you get a lot of resources. You get a lot of kind of good content, but you're not overly rushed through it because the cycles tend to last a few weeks. So I feel that the event structure is done really well and it's very rewarding. I've enjoyed every event that I've done, and there's only been, I think, one event where I couldn't clear the hardest boss, and that was because I just truly did not have the element I needed for it, and I didn't want to pull in that particular character, which, by the way, I regret, and I'll talk about that in a different video. But overall, love the event structure. Kind of sorta tied to events, maybe in an adjacent way, is the dailies. So dailies, if you want to call them events, it's just what you do each day. Dailies, you can get done in about 5 minutes. And I don't know about you, but me personally, there are days I just don't have time to game. Busy day at work, taking care of the family, this, that, and the other, life, blah, blah, blah. All that comes and hits me, and I don't have time to log in. And so this being on both PC and mobile phone cross progression, cross save, whatever you want to call it, I love the idea that I can now just lay in my bed and load this up on the phone and run my dailies. And so they're just up here. And basically you have to finish 4 daily goals. When you log into the game, that's one. Boom. I've got one of my daily goals already done. I'm gonna get some rewards, some gems, etc. for it. And the rest of these are super, super easy. You can do the harder ones like completing trials. But on days that I just want to go quick, it's really this simple. I come into my task. I can clear out whatever is done. This is going to clear me another daily. I'll reset this later. I'm not worried about it right now. I can then go into my social things. So if you've played Persona before, you have your your free calendar when you're not in a palace. And you can do like side jobs or talk to confidants. That's what these action points are for. I basically have to do 3 of these. Or if you see these with this little icon, that will use 3 stamina points. And I'm going to show you this to you really quickly just to show you how quick you can do this. And believe me, once you've done these a couple times, you're not going to sit here and watch all the cutscenes. And so I'm going to pop in here really quick. And come on and load. And I can just fast forward through this. Boom, done. That's another daily done. So now I'm up to 3. And then the last part, oh, sorry, cool. I love that they added this transition to this. Of course, as I do this is probably going to, oh, good. Sometimes when you do that, you have to go through your school day really quickly. It takes like a minute, but thankfully it didn't make me do that this time. And then my final daily is to spend stamina. And so you have your kind of daily stamina spenders here. And I could come in here and if I wanted to, and I'm not going to do it right now, I could start, for example, this here to get some materials. And at the end of it, I can choose, I think, to do up to count 5 runs, I want to say. It's like 4 or 5 runs at a time. And that would use my 120 stamina. And so by doing that, if I did that just now, all of my dailies would be done. Seriously, 5 minutes and you can auto those battles. And you're going to want to do them anyways because you're going to need the resources. And so if you don't have time to play that day, you're not bogged down by some 15, 20, 30 minute, process to get dailies done. You can get in, you can get right out. And I certainly appreciate that. Now, I'll say counter to that, part of the reason you're going to want to do these dailies is for, another, potential negative is the resources to build your characters. They can get pretty scarce. And your dailies definitely give some to you. They give them to you in your reward tracks and things like that. And they give them to you in those missions I was just showing you. But I will tell you that I have been frustrated on a few occasions because I would pull some cool characters, somebody I really want to build, and I would go to build them up and I'm just missing materials. I don't have enough weapon materials. I don't have enough XP materials. I don't have enough skill materials. And if I go to a character, I'm going to show you everything you need. Let's pick someone I haven't leveled yet. Okay. So I just pulled our friend here. And to level him up, here's all the things I need. So I need XP. When I level up, so this is using books, and the first probably 50 levels really aren't a big deal. That's not the hard part. But, I'm going to use this, and then I need different levels of materials to then, break through, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure what it'll be called once this is translated. But you break through and then you do it again. So I'll do it again here, and then it's going to ask me again, and I need more materials. And I've been stockpiling, by the way, which is why you see so many there. And you just keep doing this. And then eventually you get higher tier. So now you see I'm in purple, it goes up to gold, etc., etc. So you do that all the way to level 80. Same thing with weapons. So I've got his 4-star, so I'm going to quickly equip that over here instead of his 3-star. And then let's see, if I want to level this, same thing. I'm going to use leveling materials, which are different. And then I'm going to use breakthrough materials to do this again. And this will do exactly what you saw with the, with the regular leveling. So, and you also notice too, up at the top here, I've got these soul stones or soul gems, I forget what they call them. This is like a build your character resource, so it's separate from the currency to buy things from shops. I need it there. Then I need my cards, and this is actually another negative. Card building is like your gear sets. So by picking different card sets, you've got, 2-piece, 4-piece set bonuses. You also have this kind of bigger card, maybe an Arcana card, I forget what they call it. But this will give you, like, if I combo this with a certain gear set, then I get like extra things. And when you level these, it takes those soul gems that you were just seeing a second ago. So let's just grab one here. And so if I wanted to level this, again, I've got materials and I'm using 38,000 off my 10 million. Doesn't sound like a lot right here. I agree. But when you have to build, 4 or 5 cards per person, and you have to do that across multiple characters, and I may not like these here, so I might have to re-roll it, things like that. You have no idea just how fast you are going to burn through your resources, particularly these soul stones, soul gems, whatever up here. Matter of fact, when I built out my Haru, I thought with the millions that I had up here that I had a lot. And so I kept trying to like re-roll her card sets. I really wanted to build her well. And I ended up running out. And I wasn't ready for it. And it was like my wake-up call to say, I need to be a little bit more strategic with using my various, resources. Then on top of all that, we have this kind of breakthrough path. I forget what this is called. But again, you're going to have finite resources. I've been stockpiling, so it looks like I have a lot. But each of these take resources. And then as I get to these kind of side pieces, these become far more rare. And after you do that, you have your actual skills. So your skills go up to, I think, level 10 before you have your character's duplicates. And same thing, each of these is going to take various resources to level up. And then you have like the higher tiers of these. And so picture that for all of these different characters that you have. So if you're building a wide roster, you will use these things up quickly. And again, especially if you're trying to get like perfect card sets, things like that, it's going to be hard because you have to, go get a lot of cards, which uses stamina. You have to level those cards, and you might have to re-roll some of those cards. Maybe you've got 2 of the 3 stats you want, and you want to re-roll to get that third one, all these different things. And so you are just going to burn through resources. So you do have to plan, pretty strategically around your teams, especially if you have a lot of people coming up, like maybe you have 2 or 3 banners coming up and you want to pull each of those different characters, you really want to plan ahead for that. All right, that said, let's talk about another positive. And this positive is a big one, and it is the modes. I absolutely adore almost every mode in this game. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you the one bad one just to give it to you now, and that's this heart rail. This thing is meant to be like a rogue-like kind of mode where you ride a train and you go on different stops and you beat an enemy and you get to pick like a card, and then you can build like card sets to buff yourself or things like that. And they've streamlined it significantly. You can get through it somewhat fast. It's not great. It's kind of repetitive. It has a ton of rewards. And so it's definitely worth playing through. You can see I've done almost all the challenges and gotten almost all the gems, and I've fully leveled up this thing. But it's a grind, and it's not a fun grind. So, I hope they do some tweaks by the time it hits global, but it's definitely not my favorite mode. Good news is I love every other mode in this game. So to kind of look at them here, you have a few different ones. So the one on the bottom left here, it comes with, character stories. And so I don't know how to get these keys to unlock ones that I missed. But basically these are like different stages you go through. So you have like kind of the easier ones, and then you have, the harder bosses. I think I've cleared all, but yeah, this was the one I was telling you earlier I was missing key characters for. And so I probably could do them now. I just haven't gone back to it. But these are pretty cool, pretty straightforward fights, different kinds of bosses, things like that. Down here we have the guild trials. This one is one of my favorites because it forces you to build 3 different teams and it locks you out of using those characters for other teams, and you're basically pushing score. And it's just fun to kind of build those teams, and you get to use a variety of your roster to try to get the biggest score possible. You have, let's see, Velvet Trials. So this kind of goes back to, I think, Persona 5, maybe some others. But same kind of concept, you're building specific teams. So some of these are like wind teams or fire teams or things like that. And as you clear them, and you can see I've done almost all of it, as you clear them, you get a ton of gems, you get a ton of resources. This is where you come to build your main persona, is through this mode here. And so this one is just another great example of a lot of fun, so much content in here alone. Then you have, and again, there's so much, you have, I want to say this is called SOS. Yep, blah, 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 blah. So this one here, basically you've got 3 easy stages. Again, team building, trying to get through it for the stars. Pretty straightforward. And then you have the 2 big ones, which are really centered around a character or a mechanic or an element or something like that. And again, it's pushing score. There's leaderboards, things like that. So if you're a leaderboard kind of person, this is, one of the places you'll go to tickle that fancy. And again, great rewards. There's a lot of different things you can get here, tons of gems, things like that. Coins to buy personas, all sorts of good stuff. But again, just a really fun mode. This one resets with every content cycle, so every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on what schedule they keep. Same with the guild boss. And then you have the Astro Globe, which is, what am I missing over here? This one really pushes your team building expertise. So this is definitely much, much more late game. But you have a limited amount of times you can use each character within this trial. And obviously the idea is to clear all these different nodes and things like that. And you get different benefits. Like here it's saying that if I use basically a single target damage team, so Defiance, it gives them more damage. So if I bring a bunch of AoE characters, it's not going to go so well for me. I'm going to want to bring characters that are, single target damaged. But I can go through here and see, what do I need to bring? And I can kind of strategically plan out my teams. Really fun mode, probably the most challenging one in the game in my personal opinion. And again, just it's a lot of good times. Those are all the main modes. And again, you get some with events that come out, things like that. And that's not counting the palaces and mementos that I talked about earlier. So every content cycle, this stuff is resetting, except for the Velvet Room trials. And again, just a lot of fun, lots of good times. You're going to enjoy using your characters there and building teams for it. It's a lot of varied content. And yeah, I'm beating the dead horse here. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite parts. And I think the only negative I want to talk about here is you do get a lot of quests that are beyond just the main story. And these quests are how you unlock things like confidence, things like that. You get a lot of materials in here. They're not bad by any means. And if you love deep story, you're going to get a lot of content out of these things. The thing is some of them are so long. There's one in particular that I know I'm just going to skip through when it hits global, to be honest with you, because it's if you don't, it's probably a couple hours and it's a side quest. And so for these, I would say there's a few that are really fun, more engaging. There's like a treasure hunt one that's kind of fun with a cat, stuff like that. But there are some that are a slog to get through, and you're going to want to get through it to get all the rewards. But unfortunately, they're not all, best in class side stories, Witcher 3 content type stuff. But they're there. You're going to do them. It's a minor negative, but one worth mentioning. And then for the final positive, to kind of tie this whole story together, it's the persona system. What is a persona game without personas? Obviously, they're in here. And it's got a really big compendium. They call it index. I hope they change that on live. But the way that the personas work in here is you basically need to acquire them one time. Some you get through summons, and they're like the tier 1 or tier 2 ones. You're going to get them very quickly just when doing the couple pulls. Some you get as drops within palaces, mementos, things like that. And then the rest of them you're going to fuse. As you fuse them, you get materials that actually make your wonder stronger. In a different video, I'll talk about building up wonder with those. And then you'll see here, like they tell me like how I can fuse them with either coins or extra characters, whatever. And over time, you're going to want to build absolutely every one of these, or at least fuse them, I should say. You're probably not going to build them all. And there's different rarities, things like that. And then once you fuse them, they're yours forever. So even if later I want to create another persona that uses this character as a fusion, what I'm going to do is either buy a persona coin, which is like another version of them, or fuse a second copy. But anything I've done to grow this character, I'm never going to lose that. And then the other thing you get to do too is skill inheritance, which is here. And so you can level up your personas, you know, from their actual like base level up to certain levels, depending on what rarity they are and what tier. Like this is a 7 versus an 8, things like that. But then also I can come in here and pull from another character. Like for example, I can come into Sudama over here. And if I were to hit this button, I would get one of these 3. So it's random, but I would get one of these different skills. And a lot of what you'll be doing in the end game is building your really big personas, your main ones that you're going to be using for different team compositions, and then pulling skills off of other personas to kind of create your best version of it. So maybe you want to give it more speed or more, I don't know, elemental resistances, or maybe you want to stick, you know, a crit passive on someone, things like that. And so you're going to spend a lot of time kind of customizing your personas. And again, you're not going to lose that. So if I were to, you know, fuse Cert into somebody else, he's never going to lose these skills. I've already, you know, mastered them on him, if you will. So I like the persona fusion system. I get excited to go in there and get new ones, things like that. And overall, it's just another great addition to what is a persona game, obviously. So that's it. That's my, I guess it wasn't a top 5, bad 5. I'm not sure exactly how many I did in there. But that is my honest feedback or my honest impression, having played the KR server for quite a few months now. Again, quite a bit to love. It is going to feel like Persona for you. If you've played Persona 5, you're going to feel Persona 5 as you play this game. There's no doubt about it. If there are things that I covered that you want more in-depth knowledge on and you want to see me follow up with another video, drop it in the comments below and I'll see what I can do about making that video for you. Or if there's things I kind of glossed over and you're like, wait a minute, I saw this thing, what was that? Let me know, I'll make some videos. Like I said, we got about a month until global launch, so plenty of time to give you plenty of coverage on the different systems, personas, characters, whatever have you. So feel free to put in the comments and I'll see what I can cover for you. In the meantime, if you liked the video, please drop a like and a sub, and I'll see you on the next one.